I'm just outside of Washington, D.C., and I want to talk about what I did on Wednesday, March 1st through Saturday, March the 4th of 2023. Well, I was here on a trip actually at National Harbor, technically in Maryland, but right off of D.C. for the CPAC conference. So on Wednesday the 1st, I started out at my office with some early in the morning work. And then at my desk, taking care of things like planning for upcoming trips and approving email blasts to go out, and also finalizing my version of the pastoral team meeting schedule, which will take place once I get back from this trip. But then I caught an early car ride to the airport, and our executive director came with me on this trip. We did some work in the car, planning, preparation, meetings, phone calls with staff, got to the airport, got something to eat, got on the plane, did some more work on the plane. We were planning a presentation for the Heartbeat International Conference, which we'll be going to in April. And we're giving a joint presentation, so we did some planning for that while on the plane. And we're also going to tape an online version of that particular talk. So we had to get that all ready. Then we landed in Washington and went over to the hotel where this conference is going. And from the first moment we walked in fact, even before we walked inside, while we were still outside, began networking with friends and colleagues from all over the country and, in fact, around the world who were attending this conservative conference. And it was just marvelous. Ran into Brick Suit the first day, and you'll see photos on my social media about these encounters. And we just began networking for the remainder of the afternoon. We had to get the lay of the land as to where the registration was, go and get our registration badges, look at the exhibit area, look at where the conferences and talks were going to be, and look at also where the media row or the broadcast row was going to be. That's a hallway literally where there's one booth after another of all different kinds of media outlets: radio, podcast, television, some live, some taped. And during the course of these days, I spent a lot of time with those media folks doing interviews. Once we got through an afternoon of networking, then we went just down the street to a seafood restaurant and had a meeting there with one of our friends from the America First Policy Institute. So we did some business while at table in talking about policy and talking about the upcoming elections, talking about President Trump and his plans. And that was a very fruitful dinner meeting. Then Thursday the 2nd, a day full of media, a day full of networking here at the CPAC conference. So we started off with an early breakfast meeting, networking in the hallways, and then I went over to the Right Side Broadcasting Network booth, did a early morning interview with them, and then I began just going up and down Media Row, and a lot of these folks who know me were asking for interviews. In fact, there were some interviews before the Right Side Broadcasting. Just as people saw me, they invited me on to their radio show or their podcast, and it was really great. We spent some hours doing that, and then Janet and I met in the late morning with one of the representatives of the Trump campaign who was here and wanted to see us. We had that meeting. We had a lunch meeting, and then we continued with interviews on Media Row, and then we also continued with listening to so many of the talks in the main ballroom from so many of our friends and colleagues, and listening to that and taking notes and so forth. And then, let's see, I had to at different times check in on my email, and did also some work approving the Silent No More monthly e-letter to our regional coordinators, approving an ad to go in a program book for a future conference that we're speaking at, and also approving the travelogue, that is the newsletter we send out every even-numbered month regarding all our travels and activities on the road. After we did all that, listened to some more talks, Jen and I had dinner here in the hotel, and saw a few other friends networking in the lobby. On the 3rd of March, Friday, it was a very similar day. Again, lots of interviews on Media Row. Couldn't even keep track of them all. I would go down to the the area where the media were, and then just one after another. I had like before 9:30 in the morning, I had like 5 interviews. Then from there went into the ballroom, listened to more of the talks together with Janet, lunch meetings, more networking in the hallways, more media interviews, interviewed with the Epic Times, for example. Nice long interview with them. They're very thorough. And talked also with the various leaders of these different media companies, also connected with Mr. Chris Ruddy of Newsmax. And we walked around for a while and talked a little bit. He's been a great ally and friend. Also some email work in between. I had to talk with staff about the deployment of some video clips that we had taken and how to get those out to the public, approving another email blast to go out to our Priests for Life list, and also approving some trip plans for upcoming invitations. All this and more, listen to more talks in the ballroom, and then went to the Reagan dinner at night, a really special formal dinner. Carrie Lake spoke and connected with other key personalities in the conservative movement, talked with Sebastian Gorka and others. That was the Reagan dinner on the night of the 3rd. And then finally on Saturday the 4th, more interviews, including starting off with Right Side Broadcasting Network. And then Janet and I both had interviews with AMAC, who was here, and I connected with various other media outlets there in the broadcast row who wanted to talk to me. And between that, again, we were going in and listening to more of the talks. And a lot more of the talks on Saturday were ones we wanted to hear. And then we had our special seating for President Trump's arrival in the late afternoon. And that was exciting because then he gave us an early evening speech that was just fabulous. And after his speech, we went right into Mass. Mass was being offered for Saturday night for Sunday Mass. We participated in that and then connected with Eduardo Verastegui, who was there at the Mass and with whom Janet and I then had a conversation. We've done many projects together in the past, and we planned for more for the future. And meanwhile, during the day in between all this, I had to do some approvals of more upcoming newsletters from Priests for Life going out to our audience. And then we continued with some networking after that. I had a late dinner and connected with a lot of friends and colleagues, again, milling around in the hotel and the convention center, and then brought that day to a conclusion. So those were the activities from Wednesday, March 1st through Saturday, March 4th of 2023. Thank you for following these daily updates. We'll continue to bring them to you